Hi, this is our video for the course of IB Economics. In this slideshow, we will cover study tips, early content, and efficient learning. So throughout the 2 years, you will need to take notes on everything. This will help so much when you're studying for your mocks or your actual IB exams. Keep any coursework in a binder to go over to know what you have to review. Keep track of the textbook to follow up on class, take notes, and relearn things that you didn't quite learn in class. And keep past assessments to review, to learn from your mistakes, and to help know what you have to study more.
Okay, so to start off, I'm going to introduce the 9 key concepts of economics. Throughout the course, you're going to shape basically everything you learn around these concepts, especially your IAs. The IA, or the internal assessment, you'll have to present an article, explain the problem, and find a possible conclusion to it. You can choose out of any of these 9 for your micro and your macro if you want to. These following 9 concepts are scarcity, choice, efficiency, equity, economic well-being, sustainability, change, interdependence, and intervention. Each of these have their own special definitions, and you can choose the best fit one for whichever article you're presenting on your IA and whichever problem you're presenting. So next, I'll introduce the factors of productions. This is the starter to the course in a way, as it provides you the things that go into the production and demand of goods. So to start off, there are four, and it's land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. In terms of land, land is the resources from nature used in the production of goods. Labor is the human resources used in the production of goods. Capital is the factor of production that includes buildings, factories, machines, tools, and infrastructure, and more. And lastly, entrepreneurship is the management that is the organizing and risk-taking factor of production. This is the circular flow of income model. Basically, it shows how money rotates around the economy, starting at the household, which goes into spending on goods and services, which goes to firms, which then goes to wage and interests, back into household, etc. How the factors of production rotate, and how goods and services go from firms to households, and that goes back into the factors of production. The PPC model is the main model used by economists. It shows both the maximum quantity of products that can be produced, which is the potential output. However, it has its assumptions. It assumes that an economy can only produce two goods, the resource and state of technology are fixed, resources are fully employed, which means they are all used, and all possible jobs are filled. This is very hard to see in the current economy worldwide, so it is just a baseline model used by economists. Do keep in mind that economics is a very heavy class in terms of definitions. For example, if you take a look at my notes, you'll see that pretty much the whole note taking I've done in this big piece of notes is just noting down definitions. For example, the definition of the circular flow of income model, tax, saving, households, it's all just definitions. Every term has a type of definition or explanation in this course. You'll go over these in class, but it is still helpful to read the textbook because it helps you really grab an understanding of the course.
So now we'll start off with the first unit that you learn in the first semester, which is microeconomics, which refers to a specific market and not a whole economy. So the most basic concepts of this microeconomics unit are supply and demand. Demand is the quantity of goods and services that consumers are willing and able to purchase at different prices at a given time period. The law of demand states that as the price of a product falls, the quantity demanded of the product will usually increase, ceteris paribus. This means that if nothing else changes, this will happen.
And for supply, it means that the quantity of a good and service that producers are willing and able to supply at different prices at a given time period. And the law of supply states that as the price of a product rises, the quantity supplied of the product will usually increase, ceteris paribus. Another way to interpret ceteris paribus is as all things being equal. As one thing rises, the other one falls. That's a or as one thing rises, the other thing also rises. It's a good way to keep understanding of this. You also see the graphs that we use as economists for the supply and demand. Later on during the course, you'll see how these two merge into one.
Supply and demand curves are usually not seen as curves in the textbook, but this is an easier way to understand it. So moving forward, you'll see supply and demand curves as straight lines. So first, we should talk about the price elasticity, which refers to how much the quantity demanded of a product changes when there's a change in the price of a product. This refers to if a price of a product rises, less people will be willing and able to buy it, so the quantity demanded will fall, or in another way. So demand is perfectly inelastic when the price of a product doesn't change the quantity that is demanded. A product that would reflect this, for example, is cigarettes. Since they are addictive, people won't stop buying them if there's a rise in the price. Um, the other way is a perfectly elastic product, which will not change price at all, but will change quantity demanded. So the determinants of demand are numbers and closeness of substitutes, because if there are substitutes, once the price of a product rises, people will move to the cheaper substitutes. So another determinant is necessity and wide definition. If we define food as a product, it has very inelastic demand. But if we define it as something more specific, like fruit, it will have a more elastic demand. So another determinant is the proportion of income spent on this good. If it's a house, which you spend a lot of your income on, or if it's just a small product, the elasticity will change. And the time period considered is also a determinant, since price elasticity can be different in the short run than it is in the long run. So for supply, this is the same. If the price of a product doesn't change supply, it's perfectly inelastic. And if the price stays the same, but the quantity supplied changes, it's perfectly elastic. So the determinants of this are the existence of unused capacity, which can be supplied, the mobility of FOPs. So if we can use factors of production in other areas, it will be more elastic. The ability to store stock. If firms can store a lot of supply, they can then release that whenever they want. And the time period considered also, since elasticity will change in short term and long term. So government interventions that we see in microeconomics include taxes, subsidies, price ceilings, and price floors. These all work to correct market failure. So first, we can see a maximum price, which is usually used in necessity goods, so everyone in the economy can afford it. This price is usually below the equilibrium that we can see in PE, QE. the maximum price can create excess of demand, and the government will correct this by releasing stock so the supply curve shifts to the right. A minimum price is usually set so that there is minimum wages and people are not getting paid less than they should be, and it's set at a higher than the price equilibrium. This usually creates an excess supply, which the government can correct by buying and creating more demand, which shifts the demand curve to the right. So for positive externalities, we can see that the um, the marginal public benefit is less than the marginal social benefit because an externality will benefit the social aspect of the economy. So we have a potential welfare gain that is highlighted in blue in the middle. To reach this welfare gain, the the government can supply a subsidy so that the product is cheaper to supply and the supplier will make more of it. This will increase the social benefit in a product like healthcare, which will benefit the society as a whole, and so correct the market failure that happens when we don't reach the potential welfare gain that there is. So now we have a negative externality. This refers to something that is not beneficial for the social economy, like cigarettes, which will have a negative effect on a third party. So here, instead of welfare gain, we see the blue triangle highlighted, which is welfare loss. This means that the marginal social benefit of cigarettes is less than the marginal private benefit. To correct this welfare loss that is market failure, the government can either place an indirect tax on cigarettes, which will shift the supply curve to the left and make it more expensive for the supplier to make cigarettes and sell them, or they can use negative advertising so the quantity demanded of cigarettes goes down. These both would erase this welfare laws and fix the market failure.
So now let's look at the textbook overall, or known as the Econ Course Companion according to the Oxford IB Diploma Program. So basically, the Oxford Economics Course Companion, or as we simply know it as the economics textbook, is produced by Oxford University Press. If you have watched our bio videos, you might have noticed that the textbook used in biology is also made by the Oxford University Press. So if you are taking biology and or have looked at our videos for biology, you can also apply some of the note-taking tips and information intake techniques that we have provided in those videos to economics because the textbooks are structured very similarly. Inside the textbook, you'll notice that it's just a lot of definitions, functions, and systems. A pattern that we found in Oxford textbooks, both econ and bio, is that there is always a leading question or a leading claim or a leading hypothesis followed by an answer. It also helps that the Oxford descriptions are very straightforward, so it is easier to understand than the rest of the textbooks. For example, if you look in math, as we provided, we don't really read those, and the information has to be taken in by ourselves through practice problems. And thankfully, inside of the econ textbook, the benefit of the Oxford textbook is that it also provides goals and expectations for each candidate at the beginning of each chapter. This is helpful as it serves as a leading or guiding arrow to where you need to be to succeed in class. Additionally, you can see how in chapter 6, it mentions the last point is HL only. So depending on if you're SL or HL, the textbook will also let you know where you have to be. And that is pretty much it for this video, and we'll be back later with an explanation of how to succeed in your IA. Thank you very much.